Hello friends, welcome back to this free Figma course for complete beginners. My name is Ines, I'm a principal product designer and a hiring manager with 16 years of experience. If you've missed the previous lessons of this course, go to my YouTube channel and watch them. Finally, today we're going to learn prototyping in Figma. And prototyping is really important because user interface is never a static thing. If you realize it or not, but most interfaces that you use, they have some sort of animation. The reason for that is that we humans, we love moving objects. This is just how our eyes were trained. And animations help us to see the logic between events. Let's go straight to Figma and see how animations work and how they affect our perception of the interface. Okay, I have two simple screens designed in Figma. And then, according to my idea, when a person clicks on this panel with the name and the surname, they are directed to the separate page when they can see more information about this person. This could be, for example, a contact list. And now let's see how can I connect it to a prototype. The first thing to mention is that right now we are in the designing mode in Figma. And in order for us to switch on the prototyping mode, we need to go to the right-hand side menu and click on the prototype tab. You might remember that from the very first lesson we had on the overview of the Figma interface. If you've missed this lesson, I highly recommend you to watch it. Then, in this tab itself, there is not much going on. We have some general prototype settings. You can choose the device, for example, that you are going to use to show your designs. And you can choose the background of this device and if it is going to be a vertical or a horizontal one. And this is basically it. But what it tab just did is that it changed the mode of the Figma. And now when we hover on things, we will see this plus icon. And from this icon, I can start prototyping. If I click on this plus icon, I can drag an arrow from it. And by directing this arrow to the place that I want, I am telling Figma that I want the interaction to happen. In my scenario, I want when the person clicks on this block, they are directed to the next page. And this is exactly what I see here. It is actually too soon to look at the animation, so I switch them on. In the default state, this panel will look like that. It's just because I interacted with it already when I was preparing this lesson, it is showing me something else here. Then let's have a look to this pop-up. What do we have here? From this pop-up, we can define how the interaction will look and how it will behave. We want our interaction happens on tap, so nothing is wrong here. We can also have it defined on drag or while hovering, while pressing, mouse enter, mouse leave, and all those options. There is basically everything that you need. It is all possible interactions that are available in the digital world. They even have a support for gamepads here right now. What we want to happen next? We want a users to be navigated to the next screen, and this is exactly what is happening. There are other actions we can assign. We can change components. Right now it is disabled because we are defining the actions between a component and a frame. If we were defining the actions between two components, we can just switch them. We can also navigate back, but it is our first action, so it doesn't make sense. We can scroll to a certain position and we can open a link. There are also some actions that are defined through variables. We are going to look at them at some other lessons, not today. They are a bit advanced. And there are actions with overlays. We are going to discuss them today. Right now, we are satisfied with the navigate to action, so let's move on. It is also defining our destination. We have set it visually and we also see the arrow, so we are pretty much sure that it is where we want it to be directed, and we can choose an animation. We are going to have another lesson on animations because it is a bit of a bigger topic and it is also very fun, but today we're going just to cover the basic. Right now, let's leave it like that and see how it looks. But before we open our prototype and see how our interaction works, we need to make sure that we set a starting screen. This is very important to tell Figma from where our prototype starts. Sometimes Figma defines it automatically, sometimes not, especially if we already made some changes and we have set some starting flows and then deleted them. That was my case for this particular designs today, because I was practicing these interactions and reminding myself how everything works before I started the recording, and that's why Figma was a bit confused. But anyways, it's your responsibility to always remember about those starting points. And in my situation, I want the first screen to be my starting point. So I choose the screen, I go to the right hand side panel, and I assign the flow starting point. Let's say it the flow 1. Let's call it the prototype. I don't know, prototype 1. Pretty much the same. But anyways, right now Figma knows where my prototype starts. So let's trigger it and see how the interaction looks. And now we have a new tab open where we see the iPhone model that we have selected and the background color that we have defined in the very beginning when we have just selected the prototype tab. And when I click to this block, I am directed to a separate page. It does exactly what I want, but frankly, it doesn't look good. It is because the interaction is set to instant. We have no animation, and it is a bit confusing. It is not really clear where this screen appears from. By the way, if we've reached the end of the prototype, in our situation it has happened really fast because we only had one interaction, we can press R on the keyboard and get back to the initial starting screen. So as I said, without any animation, it just doesn't look sexy, but it also could be confusing because our users, they might not know where the screen appears from. And let's see how the perception of the screen will change if we add animation. Let's get back. And now when selecting the arrow, we can define the animation. According to my idea and the expected iOS behavior, I want the second screen appear from the right. Let's set it to move in. Now, if we hover on this preview, you can see how the animation will behave, and this is exactly what I need. I also want the screen appear from the right-hand side corner, so everything is correct, and let's see how it will change the prototype. Let's get to the starting point and let's click it one more time. And then you see, because the screen appeared from the right, it first of all looks more pleasant to our eyes, and second, this way we indicate our users that in order to get back, they need to look for something that is directing them to the left direction. You know what I mean? They try to relate the screen's behavior with the logic of the physical objects. If we have two sheets of paper, for example, and we have one sliding up another one, then by the logic, if we want to get back to the first sheet, we will just need to slide it back. And in many cases, that can actually help us to explain the users what they would need to expect from our interface. If we made the screen appear from the bottom up, then the logical action would be to swipe it down in order to get back. And this is why animations are so important and so fantastic. Right now you see I have the back icon. Following this logic, I want the person to click here to get back. If we now click on this link, it will not direct us anywhere because we did not define the behavior yet. Let's get back to the prototype, choose this link and make the arrow direct to the first screen. And now, because we now want the screen to slide back where it used to be, we have multiple options. We can stay with the move in and just have the first screen to slide back over the second one. But it's not something that I think I want. I might want to change it to the move out. And then let's see what will happen is when I click back, this screen is moving out of the side. It could be another option. I could push the second screen out of the view. Let's see how it will affect the prototype. First, we have it sliding over, and then when we click back, we have it pushed out of the view. It is up to you how you will decide to go about the behavior like that. I'm just showing you different options. Let's get back, and I can also show to you a very interesting action that you can use for this particular use case. You can choose the back action. And then you see the arrow is not connected to the first screen. the Figma will remember which screen was the previous one and will just get you back when you click this. Let's see how it works. Now we click there and then we click back and the screen went over the side without us actually defining anything about that. So what Figma does here is that it reverses the previous action and gets you back to the previous screen. In many situations, it could be really convenient. So a few things to mention here. If you have noticed, we define the interaction only for the first block in this list. But if we now select the whole page, we will be able to see that actually all our blocks, all the similar elements, they have the same interaction and they will work the same way as the first one. That happened because the first element is the main component. That's why you need to keep in mind that when you define interactions within a main component, it will be inherited by all instances. You can then delete or reroute interactions for the instances, but just keep in mind that it will be implemented everywhere by default. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can also change the interactions from the right-hand side panel. The same pop-up will appear from where you can define your interactions. It's just another place. Also, if you want to delete your interactions, you can delete an arrow or you can delete it from here from the right-hand side panel. Okay, let's move on. But before we go to the next interaction, I want to introduce you to two ways how you can show your prototypes in Figma. First of all, you can present them. If you click on the present mode, your prototypes will be shown in a separate tab as we just had it. But you can also review the prototype as a preview. And there is also the shortcut for it. It's Shift Space. And this way you see that the prototype is open in a window for us. It is more convenient to see the prototype like that when you are designing for a mobile screen or you just want to test your interactions, you are not showing it to your clients yet. By the way, if you like this lesson and you want to continue learning Figma, then hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell. This way you will get a notification when a new lesson comes out. And we are moving on. Okay, let's close it and move to the second use case. Now I might have a design where a user clicks on the button and a model opens. There are multiple ways how you can emulate this interaction in Figma. Let's go and create the first connection. We are going to choose the button and connect it to the screen that we want to be connected. Then the trigger will be the tap, which is correct, and then it's gonna be navigated to the second screen. But instead of moving the second screen on top, I might want it look like my model opens up from nowhere. There are few animations that can emulate that. The first one is dissolve. When I choose the dissolve, then something will appear gradually from being fully transparent to being fully visible. Let's see how it works, but first let's not forget to assign a flow starting point. And let's have it open in the preview. Now, what is literally happening? When I click open the model, the second screen goes from being fully transparent to being fully visible. And now, the same way, I can define the close the model, and again, I can just either set it as back, or I can navigate to and choose dissolve, but now it will dissolve the other way. Let's see how it's gonna work. Now it works just fine. So that was the first option. The second option that you have is to choose the Smart Animate. If you choose this setting, then Figma will try to identify the layers that have matching names, and then she will try to define what will be the best interaction between them. If you did a great job with naming your layers in a logical way, then it's gonna work like magic. And in many situations, it's gonna save you loads of time. Figma can really handle a complex use cases with the smart animations. For example, I might want to copy paste this model to the first screen, but only I will set it to fully invisible. It is gonna be here. And if I move it also down below, then when I click the preview and I will animate the screen, then you see I did not tell Figma then change the position of the model. It reads it automatically from the positioning, which is really cool, and I love this feature, but it will require you always be careful about naming your layers. Okay, let's move on, but that was also not the last option that you have. The next option can actually save you a lot of time, and especially if you are working with a very complex design file that has become too big already, it can also help you to increase the performance of the file. What you need to do to try out this option is to get the model out of the frame. Now it is placed separately. And then what I can do is that instead of defining the interaction being navigated to a separate screen, I can open an overlay in Figma. So if I assign this model as an overlay, I will have some additional options. I can say which frame is going to be our overlay, and I can also define the position. I can center that, I can make it align to the top, and I can even set it manually. For example, I want it to be positioned in the center, but more to the top, for example. The other awesome thing that I can do is that I can set a background. So instead of having a separate rectangle with a set opacity, I can just define it from here and set the color and the opacity that I want. And I can also define an animation, and let's see if I can say it as a move in, but maybe, I don't know if that's gonna be good, but let's see how it works. So I click here, and the model might appear from the bottom like that. So you see, you have multiple ways how you can create a model window inside Figma. This is a very common use case that you often need to design for, and I recommend you to explore all the options that Figma suggests you. And that was it for today. That was the basics of the prototyping. The prototyping is a bigger topic, and we're going to spend some more lessons on it. If you liked this lesson and you want to continue learning Figma, then hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell. This way you will get a notification when a new lesson comes out. And I see you next time.